A former teacher was arrested in California on child abuse charges. Why the hell are we telling you about this? Well, Holy Hexes is James' site that's decided to expose what's taking place. Folks, we need to teach the youth critical thinking, the trivium, and all these skills, and not have sickos like this around. James, why did you want to bring this up?
That's a great question. Why on earth would you ever really want to discuss anything this
I mean, this is kind of an
disgusting?
obscure case. This is, one teacher, although it's very disturbing. I don't know that it's necessarily what we normally cover, but go ahead.
I think what holyhexes.com has started to cover more and more of, as we've seen in these last several months with the Penn State scandal. And then you have the Syracuse scandal. And then you look at the Catholic Church, and you look in Belgium, and you look at all of these things all around and go, oh, there is ultimately some kind of worldwide criminal child abusing network. Are
I've
they
said
all?
this for some time now, James, and it's one of the more troubling of things to discuss because nobody wants to hear about infants being raped
I
until
don't.
suffocation. And I hate to be graphic with it, but I have close friends that firsthand were victims of this. There's the element to it in which they create perfect mind control slaves, in which their brains, because of this trauma-based mind control, is compartmentalized. And then there's just the occult satisfaction that these satanic scumbags get from this. And I do see this trend. And Holy Hexes has been doing a good job of talking about this. Before we get on past Paterno, I want to just say in closing, did you notice he died of a very fast-acting cancer?
He did, and I was gonna give the hat tip to one of my main man. I don't have a whole lot of people that help me on Media Monarchy and in the kingdom as far as posting things to the sites. Everybody helps with all their just encouragement or news tips or any of those things. But my man Alan in Omaha, which Omaha being the home of Boys Town and
Oh, yeah.
and the Franklin scandal, he really started to go after the Sandusky and the Penn State case, all the while having been, doing investigative, kind of look back stories on holyhexes.com. So thanks to him for covering these kind of stories that, to me, I wouldn't have initially. It's like, do they fit on Holy Hexes? What I originally, kind of envisioned as being, a site about, religion and society and occult and cults. But in a way, it seems so fitting because, just as you said, maybe some kind of occult satisfaction. Yeah, there are sickos. Is this guy arrested? Mark Burnt, arrested in Torrance, California. Is he connected to the larger networks? Probably not. But again, I think psychically on some level he is. So I feel like I can justify the inclusion and the investigations of these disgusting stories on Holy Hexes because ultimately, whatever you think your God or your creator is, there is a spiritual, disconnect. There must be some sort of fundamental soul, apocalypse with these types of people. With whether
That's
it's
exactly
the
what
mass
it is.
shooter
I've had
events
it
or
described. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying whether it is these sort of pedophile child abuse events or the mass shooters or any of those kind of things. I think it comes down to this sort of there's got to be a fundamental break. And I'm not trying to say morality and again, Bob, I don't need to tell you about that. You are studying all of it pretty in depth.
Yeah, unfortunately. But James, you're absolutely right. There is a connection here, and now that we're talking about this, I most certainly see it. The fact of the matter is that the occult has used sacrifices like this, if you will, abuse like this, if you will, to get off on. And a simple breakdown of this will show you that it's being done. It's being done. We can look at Boys Town. We can look at some of the
And
various
even
reports.
the Jonathan Elenoff of New World Order Report.com, he and other people in Colorado just helped get one of their
Oh,
sheriffs
the Texas,
arrested.
yeah, or the sheriff rather, yeah.
I thought it was is it in Texas?
No, it's in Colorado.
Okay. For, drugs and sex and embezzlement and just all kinds of fraud. So again, I suppose people who oh, I am not a conspiracy theorist at all. I was talking to a coworker the other day outside at the break.
Are you a conspiracy theorist,
Well, I
James?
think people kind of know, and even if they maybe don't really know, I think some people are probably like, yeah, I think he does some website or podcast or something. But people who take the time to talk to me will go, oh, you're not a crazy conspiracy theorist. But I was talking 9/11 stuff with a younger dude, with a guy who I think is 21. So he would have been.
He was in middle school, not even.
Exactly. So imagine even more what kind of effect 9/11 would have had. But he kind of said, I'm in no way, shape, or form a 9/11 conspiracy. I was like, not at all, not in any way.
No.
And I think he was sort of at which point then you've got him. As soon as they start to discuss those kind of easy doubts that they may have, it's like, yeah, and then the war games, and that's when you see their eyes kind of go, oh. I didn't know about these war games. I didn't know about building. Yeah, exactly. So it's great to be able to then make the note and in my head go, okay, sweet. I've kind of laid the groundwork. Now I can follow up and send this guy a link and be like, here, man, check out my friend James Corbett's video, 9/11, a conspiracy theory. Yeah. It's short. It's kind of fun and funny, tongue-in-cheek, but it's all factual and backed up and linked and documented.
Did he get back to you on it yet?
I haven't sent that yet.
Oh, cool. You got to send that one to him and send him the Remember Building 7 commercial, This is what I do.
I was almost thinking, I was like, I could still just even send him 9/11 Press for Truth.
Right? I mean, yeah, it's funny. He's back in the loose change stage of things, if you will. But there is that learning curve for people, and we shouldn't alienate people because they don't get it or because they have this stigma of conspiracy theorists. But going back into what we were talking about this abuse, if I may, I believe, and we talked about this with our guest on Monday, who talked about child satanic trauma-based ritualistic births from hospitals. And she talks about the soul sucking, if you will, from the most precious, the most beautiful aspect of life, which are our children. And I believe that there is an actual soul sucking. I know this sounds far out, and this probably is one of the more far out of things that you'll hear me say on the show. But I believe, based on my knowledge of some of their rituals, and after talking with Mark Passu and others who have exposed just how important that is, that they get off of a literal soul sucking, for lack of a better term, of the youth, of children, and that is a major portion of this. And then on top of that, it's a great way to control their puppets, the lower level puppets like the Rudy Giuliani's and the other cronies, Newt Gingrich's and those folks that we see, because I guarantee Newt Gingrich has that sort of blackmail against him, and even if he was a decent guy at some point, now he's completely sold himself to the devil because he would never want people to find out that he's a child molesting scumbag. We can look at Ted Haggard. Not that he's really a politician or anybody important.
But he is, in a way, he is.
Yeah, he was. He was very influential. People who forget who he is, he was the if I can say the word, evangelical nutcase.
Was he in Florida?
No, he was in Colorado.
I'm trying to blame everything on Florida.
Florida, yeah, it's all Florida. But we got enough crazies here. But I'm just saying that's a great example of how they're able to use this sort of blackmail to control people, and that's how they keep people in their secret, occult, dark sort of center.
And again, you can take it back to the Franklin scandal. You can go then take it to D.C. with the call boys and the White House tours and the houses that have been wired with, audio and video that are meant to capture people in compromising positions that they've sort of been put into. So it may not be horrible, wretched things like Sandusky or this one we're talking about here out of California, former teacher Mark Burnt, abusing 23 kids, blindfolding them, putting cockroaches on them, and even perhaps much, much worse. But it's just, it's all around. I don't know, man, it boggles the mind. You want to talk about, you mentioned weaponized cancer and Joe Paterno, because, yeah, he seemed to go fairly quickly there.
What did he know?
He seemed to say, we didn't know anything at all. Of course, the complete denial, and you could, of course, see protester signs saying they all knew. They all knew something about it, and of course they did. So, again, my man Alan in Omaha posted up on Holy Hex's idle musings on weaponized cancer and getting into Joe Paterno's funeral and the Penn State Board of Trustees. And basically making the connection that Jack Ruby thought he was injected with a fast-acting cancer while he sat in prison for shooting the agent known as Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, we've talked about that actually many of times. And Popeye, my good friend from federaljack.com, has had Judith Ferry Baker on. And we've even talked, I wrote
Oh,
an
okay.
article recently, I'll send it to you, James, about Bob Marley and the possibility that he was taken out by weaponized cancer. I think we've even talked about that, perhaps you and I,
Probably.
at some point. All right, James, another quick break, and then the final segment when we come back. It's our monthly chat with MediaMonarchy.com. Don't go anywhere.